I've never used a Leica camera before, and to me, I kind of always called them dentist cameras because they're really expensive and kind of unattainable for just your average Joe. However, you don't need to be a dentist to have one. You just need to know some YouTube friends who happen to own some really cool cameras. Thank you, Cam, for letting me borrow this. This is his Leica M11. And to me, I've always said that if I ever got a Leica, it would have to be a film Leica camera because the whole point of the Leica is the craftsmanship and the precision of the body. With a film camera, you could put whatever film stock you wanted into it and get the images you want, but then you get the experience of the Leica. Obviously, with modern Leica cameras, you're getting the experience of it. However, we're using a digital sensor. So this is actually the same sensor that's in my Sony a7R5. I'm gonna go ahead and use this from the perspective of someone who doesn't really understand Leica, and then I'm going to be taking comparative photos with my Nikon ZF to see if really there is an image difference or if it really comes down to how the user experience is. Also, Cam is letting me borrow his old MP, so I'm gonna go ahead and shoot some film Leica photos, which I've also never done, to see if this is something that I would actually want to invest in and to know if the film experience is really better than the digital experience or if it's pretty close to the same. Ask this guy. So on this M11, we are using the Typoc 28mm, it's a really pretty lens. I'll actually be adapting this exact same lens to the Nikon ZF just to keep the pictures somewhat consistent. Also, as a side note, we are using the Mackey strap, which I think pairs really, really nicely on this Leica camera.
Hey, I know that was disingenuous, but he means it.
It does look good. He's paying me so much money to say that. You have no idea. I've actually never shot with a rangefinder before, so that's definitely going to be a new experience. You really can't tell this unless you're looking through the rangefinder yourself, but there's this really cool focusing system. When things are out of focus in the center box, it looks a little bit misaligned, but as it comes into focus, all of everything lines up in that little center box, and it's really cool. Okay, why don't you just stand there? You should just stay there. So the thing with the rangefinder versus a viewfinder, and this is just the first photo that I've taken, it's definitely a little bit underexposed or more underexposed than I was expecting because you're not getting a live read of what your image is going to look like compared to shooting on my Nikon ZF with a proper viewfinder. That's definitely new. I'm not exactly sure how to read what I'm reading in this camera yet. Cam, how do you use this rangefinder? I've never shot with a rangefinder.
The rangefinder on this is basically fully mechanical. So when you put a lens on there, it gives you different frame lines. So right now we have a 28 frame line. You see it's filling out almost a whole viewfinder. And then there's a frame line in the center, and I think that acts as like a 75mm frame line. So it gives you two frame lines at once. So next time you look through it, you can hit this lever, and as you hit the lever, you'll see the 35 frame mark and then the 50 frame mark. And as you focus in and out, sometimes the whole thing will shift. It's literally like a film camera. In the center there, we have a square, and you want to line up the object in that square.
Right.
So it's misaligned right now. So as you focus, that will align.
Yeah.
So, and it's all optical. There's no digital anything in this. Besides, we have it in auto ISO. So those numbers on the bottom is your shutter speed. So guys, this is my Leica MP. I have a few different film rangefinders, and a lot of them have little quirks that are insanely annoying. The battery dies super quick. The light meter is like kind of weird to read. The viewfinder isn't the most clear. The focus patch is like always kind of muffled or cloudy even after a CLA. And then when you put your eye up to this Leica MP film camera, it's super clean, super clear. The viewfinder feels big in your eye. It just works. So when you look through a Leica MP like this, again, this is a film camera. It looks exactly the same as this M11, except you could change your ISO. So instead of the film rewind knob up here, they changed theirs to ISO. So you have to lift this up to change it as if it was a film rewind.
That's cool.
Yep. The accessory I have on here, it just goes into the cold shoe, and it almost gives you a advanced lever, but it's really comfortable to hold just like that.
Yeah.
So that's from IDS. It's made out of brass. There's black paint on it, and it brassed out pretty easily. So how a rangefinder, I'm not exactly sure how it works, but we have two windows up here, and both of these windows affect how the rangefinder works. So if you cover this, or your second rangefinder image that helps you align that focus, it will go away. Well, guess what? On the M11, it's the same exact mechanical technology on there. It's literally the same thing, except the difference is you put film in this, and this has one of the best sensors out there from the Sony a7R5.
Seems cool. On this episode of two guys standing around talking about cameras, they ramble on for too long, take some aggressively average photos, and do their best to look cool in front of a camera. And now, thanks to Artlist's new AI video generator, they can do all that in style, any style, like American comic book, 3D animation, and even full-on anime.
このカメラは素晴らしいです。
はい、同感です。このカメラで世界を撮影します。
But in all seriousness, guys, a really great way to use this AI-generated video, in my opinion, and talking to my friend Brady Bissett, is actually for storyboarding. So if you actually type in kind of what you're looking to get into this AI generation video, it might spark some really great ideas for things that you can actually film, which is pretty dang cool. And I tried it out and it works pretty well. If you'd like to try this out for yourself, definitely click on the link in the description. I've been using Artlist for years and I really do recommend it. It's his truck, but thanks.
Beautiful truck.
Thank you.
What are you just doing? Taking pictures?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I want to get some.
There you go. So as you guys can see, we're going to be using the exact same lens setup that we were using on the Leica, but now we're on the ZF. And this adapter is pretty dang snazzy. So Cam was explaining to me that one of the things about these rangefinder cameras is that the close focus is pretty dang bad because, like he was saying earlier, it's all mechanical. So there's literally a limit to how close you can get to something because you're not looking through a viewfinder through the lens, you're looking off the lens. As things get closer, things get misaligned. So there's really no need for these lenses to be able to close focus that much. But when you put it on a camera like this, you may want to close focus more. Not only can you go past the normal focus, this is as close as the Leica focus, but you can push it a little bit farther and get a little bit more range. But not only that, you can also push on this adapter and you can get the focus to get even closer. In fact, I'll go ahead and demonstrate that for you guys right here. And then I'll take a comparable photo from the Leica to the Nikon. So first I'm gonna set it to the closest focus I can do on what essentially it would be on the Leica camera, which is, I'm actually probably leaving the frame because I'm pretty dang far away from the Ford logo. And then I'm gonna switch it into the close focus that this lens specifically is capable of normally, which does feel substantially closer. And then again, lastly, the adapter itself, you can rotate that and get even closer. Like absurdly close, actually. Kind of a random side note, but that's fun. I'm setting them both to 2.8. And we don't have the split prism, or it's not, I guess it's not called a split prism in the Leica, but we don't have the same focusing system. So I actually just have the back button here to punch in on the image to make focusing a little bit easier. The cool thing about the Nikon is we do have kind of that retro film camera vibe because we do have the really cool top dial. So I'm rotating these to change my shutter and things like that. I do prefer a more manual photography experience, so I don't tend to shoot almost anything in auto unless I'm needing it to be quick for a job or something. But for the most part, I like to actually move all the knobs. Now let's switch over to the MP. I've never loaded an MP. Cam was briefly showing me how to do it. I'm really hoping not to mess it up, and I really don't want to drop it in the dirt.
It's odd because it's really easy, but when you're new to Leica, for some reason it's very difficult.
Well, also at the end of the day, it's really expensive, so I don't want to drop it just on that alone. So basically there's this little tab here on the bottom. You tip it up and give it a little twist until it pops open, and then you peel it off and you don't let it go. Also the back, I'm not really sure what this accomplished, but it drops down. Leica assumes, I guess, that we're not going to be very smart and prints instructions for us here on the bottom. So I'm going to attempt to follow that. If you guys haven't seen the video where I shot my first roll of film, this feels oddly similar to that because I was super cautious, super nervous, and you know what, it ended up turning out great. So hopefully that also follows suit. Cool. Let's go. Whoops. So I'm going to drop the spool in this side, or do I go ahead and pull out the film first? I'm gonna assume I pull out some of the film first. I'm saying no. Okay. See, that didn't feel like a bad thing. I need a little more lead to be able to fish it into the, I'm gonna call it the catch. I'm not sure if that's what I should call it, but that's what I'm gonna call it. To me, this looks correct. So I'm going to just reverse the steps here. There's a little hook on the side, so make sure it hooks in, make sure everything's pushed together. Just twist this back on, close it, and then the proof is in the pudding. If I wind it and this spins, I've done it correctly. So also, this is way overexposed. The sun came out. It didn't spin? Oh, dang it.
There it goes.
Did it spin?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it did its job.
We did it. Hey, that's not too bad. Whoopsie. So I don't think I actually mentioned this, but we are shooting CineStill 800T, which I've only shot once before, and I really liked it. The photos turned out pretty dang vibey. However, I was shooting those in Tokyo. This is definitely a different vibe, but we're gonna go ahead and get a quick film shot of Cam in Sedona with the truck.
We didn't think this through, but we're using 800T.
Yeah.
You know, all lenses look fantastic, closed down. So the charm on this lens is specifically when it's wide open. The bokeh is like shifts around a little bit here and there, so we're gonna lose some of that. So
Yeah, Cam was telling me this is considered the king of bokeh. This is the Summicron 35M.
this is the Leica Summicron 35mm version 4 KOB. The designer actually deemed it KOB, the king of bokeh. I don't really know why, but it does have a very special, unique bokeh to it. The max shutter speed on this MP is 1000.
So unfortunately, that means I'm at f14.
A lot of the times I like shooting with CineStill 50D for that reason, or 160, and then I'll push it a stop, so I'll shoot at like 80.
Unfortunately, that's not what we're doing here. You guys didn't see it, but I was actually popping off just a few random shots because I will say, gosh, you put a camera like this in your hands and it just kind of makes you want to shoot. So I shot a whole bunch of just Cam's truck and the surrounding area. Also because I'm trying to shoot this entire roll because this isn't my camera. So it's kind of giving me the freedom to shoot shots that maybe I wouldn't have considered, but let's go ahead and grab this shot real quick. Well, I guess we could shoot that too. I was thinking you'd be more on the outside of the truck. Yeah, that's good. Get Sedona to talk to you. Sometimes I forget that this little window right here is actually how the focus box works. And I was like, why is it turning pink? Because my finger's right over the top of it, so whoopsie. Some of you guys may be typing that like, oh, you know, shooting with the SLR style camera with the Nikon ZF, that's completely different than the Rangefinder Experience of the Leica M11, and you are for sure correct. However, they're both kind of catering towards a more classic era of cameras. And when you put a manual focus lens on it, they are pretty similar. Now, Cam definitely was just arguing with me earlier about that. He is correct in saying that because it has an optical viewfinder, it gives you that extra added experience, which it does. These things are just so gosh darn expensive though, still at the end of the day. So the question is it worth it? I don't know, I'm still using it, still playing with it.
Connor's just hating. Everybody would like have a Porsche if they can afford one.
But the question is, would you rather have a 73 Porsche 911 or would you rather have a modern day electric Porsche? And some people would say the electric, some people would say the other. Cam says both.
Let me tell you guys why I got into Leica. It was Peter McKinnon. I'm just his biggest, I'm kidding. Love you, Pete. I originally got the Leica M6 and I did a photo shoot with it. When I got the film back, I was like, holy shit, this is the look I've been chasing. The process of using a Leica rangefinder or any film rangefinder, it makes you shoot differently. When I got the film back, I was like, this is the energy I've been wanting, the way the models interact, the way I shoot it, the way I frame it up, the way I'm a little bit more concise and thought out and methodical about it. The M6 did that to me. So the next thing you know, I'm like, well, I'd love to have like digital files of this so I can shoot a little bit faster but still get the same energy. That's what led me to the M11. Versus if I pick up my Nikon ZF and I put a zoom lens on it and it's digital, I shoot totally different with that. And I shoot way faster. I overlook certain things because it's not a one-off shot. The M11 is the balance point in between both of that. So basically this is why I'm right and Connor's wrong. Don't listen to him. If you want real, just go to my channel, guys. Just go to my channel. I have a lot of Leica videos, just go to my channel.
Cam's a shill and he's bought out. He gets everything for free. I wouldn't trust him.
I pay for all my Leica. I don't know if I say this out loud. I think I paid over like $20,000.
Golly, I have a crooked camera up there. Sedona, you are for sure in my shot, but you know what? That's okay. You're really cute, so we'll allow it. Looking at the images on the back of the screen, which doesn't really mean anything, it really means more when you actually bring it into a computer and an editor. They do look better on the Leica. Again, we're shooting on the exact same lens. I'm shooting the same aperture and all that stuff. I don't know if it's just the screen quality. It's probably the screen quality on the Leica, but they look really buttery. And then when I look at the same photos on the Nikon ZF, definitely not as inspiring. But again, once you put it into a computer, process it through Lightroom or whatever you use, probably doesn't matter as much, but something to note. They really do look way more buttery on this.
Yeah, their color profiles are pretty good. They're a normal one. I saw someone compare it to Lumix though, and it looks exactly the same.
So let's go ahead and talk about the build quality between these two cameras. They're actually somewhat comparable. However, of course, the Leica is much higher quality. It is made out of aluminum, at least the black finish variant is. Apparently the silver variant of the M11 is brass. To me, I probably would have exactly reversed that, because what would be cool about the black one is the scratch resistant finish starts to wear away. You'd have that really nice brass undertone, kind of like what's going on right here on this little thumb thing. Grip? I guess it'd be a grip. However, of course, the metal build is really nice. All of the dials feel fantastic. Like Cam was saying earlier, this is actually how you change the ISO. You push up on this, so it pops up, and then you can rotate it, and then you press it back down. On the back, it's super minimal. There's really not a lot going on here. You just have a few different buttons to navigate through the menus, and that's essentially it. I have a different lens on here just for the purposes of this, but the Nikon ZF actually has a really great build quality as well. The metal parts of it are magnesium alloy, so that's going to be the bottom plate right here, as well as the top. One thing to note is that the knobs right here are actually made of brass. I haven't done it yet. I plan on doing it, but you can sand these down just a little bit to reveal that brass underneath, and it actually makes it look really cool. Another thing to note is, of course, on the back, do have a lot more buttons and custom buttons on here. And then, of course, like it or hate it, they gave us a flip screen. On the top, we have an actual electronic viewfinder, which is very, very convenient, although it does make the actual process of shooting very different. There's a certain prestige and heritage and quality to the M11 that gives it just the beautiful edge over pretty much any other camera, even things like the Fujifilm X100 or V, which is really beautiful in a similar aesthetic. When you actually hold and use a Leica camera, you can just immediately feel and tell the difference. This has a lot more care that went into it over the Fujifilm. Not to say that the Fujifilm isn't a cool camera, it is, but again, we're kind of comparing apples to oranges. Something that I've heard a lot, but I haven't really been able to experience it because I've never shot with a rangefinder, but I know a lot of people say that one of the best things about the rangefinder is you can actually see outside the boundary of your photo that you're taking. This is really good if you're doing things like street photography or something along those lines, because you can see things coming into your frame much more easily. Also, if you were shooting on a lens like a 50mm, your optical viewfinder, because again, it is optical, it's not actually changing. So you get the perspective of, what is it, like a 20? Is it like a 20 mil? It's a lot wider. You can see what you're gonna be capturing within the 50mm lens, but then again, of course, you have all this extra information. I don't know, I'd say it's probably like a 20 or 18mm field of view. That's not something that you're going to get on the ZF with the electronic viewfinder experience. Which one is a better system? I think it just depends on what you're doing. If you're doing street photography, the rangefinder probably is legitimately a better system because you do get all that extra information on the edge of your frame. Let me just clarify kind of what I'm saying. I have always told everyone, it's like, oh, I'm kind of a Leica hater, and I'm kind of just being sarcastic because I really don't hate Leica. I'm taking it from a perspective of cost. In reality, I only ever seeing myself owning one expensive camera, so I kept saying like, well, if I ever buy a Leica camera, it would be a film version, which this one isn't, ironically. To me, that's the more pure Leica experience. It's mostly about craftsmanship rather than the sensor. That being said, of course, if I just stumbled into a whole bunch of money, I probably would own a digital Leica, a film Leica, maybe the Hasselblad X2D, if I'm ever as cool as Cam. He's holding it right now. The best way to describe it is still related to cars. I think of Jay Leno. He obviously has the money. He owns every car under the sun because he can. But I bet you if he couldn't, and he could only boil it down to owning one for fun classic car and then one for fun functional car, his opinions on which one he would get would be drastically different than if he was just buying cars all willy-nilly. But I will say that I am impressed with the craftsmanship and the overall photography experience. It is pretty cool that they are hearkening back to all of their heritage, and they really haven't changed much over the last, how many decades? 70 decades? 100 decades? Seven decades. I can math. Nikon ZF is still a really great camera. I freaking love my Nikon ZF because it does still give me that film photography experience on a digital camera, which of course is what the M11 is doing, but this is doing it at a much more reasonable cost. So if you are in the photography space more casually and you just really enjoy the art of it, but you don't have a ton of money just to throw at a photography-centric camera, look into the ZF.
Also, guys, the Nikon ZF is an SLR. The Leica is a rangefinder film body. What would be interesting if Nikon ever made a rangefinder digital body with the Z-mount, I still don't think it would give you the same exact feeling because, again, the optical rangefinder with the native mount M-Mount. The M-Mount lenses have a lot of character as well, since it's a super special, unique mount. So you're getting unique capabilities out of those lenses while they remain super small. The Nikon Z-Mount is super large. So whatever lenses they make, they're gonna be large. You do get good image quality out of it. But again, it's a totally different experience with the M-Mount lenses. I don't know, anyways.
He's saying words. On that note, I did order a Leica M to E-mount adapter because I do think it would be interesting to test out the M11, which is, again, allegedly the same sensor as my Sony A7R5. So if you want to see that video, definitely let me know. I'm buying it almost more for my own curiosity, but if you guys want it, I'll post it to YouTube as well. Again, if you want to check out my Nikon ZF video in Denmark, I think it's pretty fun. You can click on the video right here. Definitely a more casual video. I like making these kind of casual videos. Let me know if this style works for you all, or if you like the more produced stuff. Sometimes I can't tell if it's the algorithm or you guys or me, but I do have fun making these, so hopefully you all enjoyed.